The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everybody to Power Teacher Pro Report for Duty. My name's Jill Dare. I work with the Digital Teaching and Learning team. I coordinate professional learning for our team. Tonight with us, we have Tiffany Kinney, who is one of the home-based trainers, and we have Sherry Wood from Brunswick County, who is going to be facilitating tonight's course. Just want everybody to do a sound check real quick. If you can hear the sound, if you guys will just do a raise your hand and let us know that you can hear us tonight.
All right, I see hands going up.
Sounds good. All right, in the chat, you will see, I apologize, the first link I put up was the actual sign-in. The second link that I've put up is the correct presentation link. And then I'm also going to put a second link up here, which is the sign-in. So those are two links that you'll need for tonight. One is the presentation link, and the second one is the digital sign-in. You will receive a certificate for tonight's session sometime within the next week from Tiffany Kinney. So she will email that out based upon your attendance tonight. So just be anticipating an email from Tiffany, which is a follow-up from tonight's session. Again, if you will look in the chat, there is a link to tonight's presentation. I'm sending it again. And then also a link to tonight's sign-in. I'm going to turn it over to Sherry. If you guys have questions, if you will just type them in the question pane. All right, Sherry, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to Power Teacher Pro Report to Duty tonight. What we're going to do is go through in the Power Teacher Training session, and we're going to look at each of the reports offered. We're going to follow that with analyzing progress. I will stop after each report and ask for questions. So if you have questions about individual reports, you will have an opportunity to answer that after every one, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask any additional questions at the end. So with that being said, this is a report to duty PowerPoint slide or Google slide that I'll keep going back and forth between. Don't forget to register. You have your learning targets and your agenda on here. And we're just going to start with looking at all four reports. I will go through each report and run a report for you so you can see what they look like. I've run several reports already. And we'll just go ahead and get started. So to get started, remember you have to go to your home base, IED Cloud, to come to Power Teacher Pro. You will have screens that will look different than my screen simply because I'm in a training session. So I will not have all of the data and the information that you will have in yours. So if you want to log in to your Power School so that you can go along with me as I go through these reports, that would be great. So I wanted to start off, before we even get into actual Power Teacher Pro, don't forget, and this is actually on the slides as well, at the end, let's see, slide 21, don't forget the Power School report. So the Power School reports, remember, are along the right side, and there's a printer icon. So if you click on your printer icon, it'll take you to, and you can see that I have no students in some of the classes, so it won't show. But this is where you can find additional reports. You will have different reports than what I have listed here, simply because, again, this is the testing site. I have a picture here showing a typical high school Power School report session, and I have had several teachers who like to go through this printer icon in Power School to do their class attendance, their field trip, and their progress reports. So once again, this is just a screenshot of what a high school Power School report would look like. So don't forget Power School reports. With that being said, I'm going to go on into Power Teacher Pro. Remember, you can go into Power Teacher Pro using that navigation link or clicking underneath your classes, any of your classes in Power School. And remember, when we get to Power Teacher Pro, it always defaults to our grading screen because Power Teacher Pro is all about, efficiency. And so they want us to get us to where we normally would be, and that would be creating assignments and grading assignments. So I'm going to be working in the reports charm for most of the session. The reports charm is on the left-hand side of your screen. And we're going to look at 4 reports. I'm going to start with the individual student report. So I click on reports and individual student report, and I'll just say something overall about the report. You have 3 tabs for every report. You have your criteria tab, your student tab, and your format tab. Your student tab and your format tab we'll go through in detail with our individual student report. However, we don't have to go through them in detail with the other reports because they're exactly the same for each report. So nothing changes in the student tab or the format tab for the 3 reports. So this is the individual student report, and on the criteria tab, you can see that I can change my report title. So I'm just going to put Math Quarter 1 Progress, because you can customize your title. And you can see that here's where I select classes. Now, if you notice, my class that is selected is the class that I have up here. It defaults to whatever is in your class selector. You can select multiple classes. Off to the right of your selections, it tells you what you've chosen. So whatever you see here is either instructions for you or what you've chosen. So I'm just going to keep it to the 1 class. If you have a custom class name, you would have done that through your settings. You can choose to use your custom class name on the report. Include students' full schedule. This, if you're in elementary or if you're in, it doesn't really matter like what grade you teach, the criteria is going to look the same because I've been in the elementary report and I've been in the high school report. So the student's full schedule is going to show all of the periods, if you're in high school, that the student goes to. And the student's full schedule in the elementary is showing all of the classes. So ELA and writing, if you had a separate writing class, math class, music class, whatever classes your students are in, that is what includes students' full schedule means. So we're going to hang with this for a moment, and we're going to talk about printing a report that includes the student's full schedule, because it's a little bit different than if I didn't have this checked. So separate report by student really only comes into play when you're doing your include students full schedule. Separating a report by student, what it does is it downloads separate PDFs of each of your students' classes. So if my student had 5 classes, then it would download 5 separate reports for that student. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. So this is the description of our classes. I've chosen 1 class, and I've chosen to do the student's full schedule. My sort options, how do I want it to appear? So notice I can't do by section by student. I have 1 class, and I have their full schedule, so it's not going to let me do that. So I do by student. So by student means it's just going to be in ABC order. How do I want this to be sorted? Gradebook preference is going to be whatever you set up or whatever you chose when you were in the settings charm and in the display settings. So whatever you had set up in the gradebook preference is what that's going to do. I always keep last name just because that's my preference. Assignments, again, what you're going to notice here is you are able to choose and customize this a lot with the way that you want it to be. So I like either the due dates newest first, or I like by category and due date newest first. So that's your choice again. Selected data. Now, when you have chosen your student's full schedule, you cannot choose to include assignments. If you choose to include assignments, when you hit run report, it's going to give you an error message and tell you that they cannot, Power Teacher Pro can't complete the process because you can't have assignments chosen for that. Probably, I would think the reason why is just because it generates a lot of data. So it's going to generate a lot of pages if you're including your assignments for every class that your student has. So just know that that is not an option if you are doing include students full schedule. You have to uncheck assignment. I uncheck standards finals grade because I'm not a standards based, and I don't have standards in my grade book. My high school does not have standards in their grade book, so it would say standard final grade, and it would say there are no standards associated with this, so it actually just kind of eats up the page when you don't need that information there. Category totals, again, that's your preference. I like category totals if I were in the classroom, just because it's going to have a nice little summary at the bottom that's going to have classwork total, project total, test total. So whatever categories that you have in Power Teacher Pro, it's going to give just a total overall percentage of those categories. The rest of the data is your choice. Do you want to show percentages? You can turn that off or on. Show assignments with no data. Include the student's number with the student name. Data range. So I have Q1 selected because that's what I've been working on in this training session, but you can see that all of your, that your county or your district, the reporting terms that your district has should be in this drop-down menu, so you would be able to choose from those reporting terms. If you're choosing category totals, you want to make sure you have your reporting terms selected as well. And now we come to our filters. So if you are doing, if you have been in your grade book flagging students' grades in the score sheet when you put grades in, if someone was late or if someone's missing something or they were absent, and you use that flag, then now you can filter that out and you can choose to print reports based on those. You can also see that you can print with grade range, percent range, color level range, and specific grades. So if I click specific grades, you can see that it gives me a drop down of the grades. Now the grade range, or excuse me, the color level range usually has like the failing is, you know, it starts at red and then it goes up to the green being the highest grade. So anyway, that's your choice. That, again, that's your choice. So that is your criteria for your individual student report. If I go to my students tab, here is where if I don't want to print for every student, then I can choose to add or remove students by clicking on the tab and click those students that I want to have the progress report go to. You have your main box at the top, your master checkbox. So if you click that, all the checks go away. If you click it, all the checks come back. And you can see it says this report applies to all students. And if I take a student off, this report applies to 27 out of 28. So it's going to only print the students that I've asked to print the report. Format. It defaults to landscape. So if you want it portrait, you have to change it to portrait. Depending upon the report you print, it could be PDF or Excel, but individual student reports print PDF. Page break between students, that just, if you don't print a page break between students, you will have the reports running together. Exclude row shading just takes off this gray when you print. So you do have your top note, your bottom note, and your signature line. So you can include, I'm just going to type something up really fast. And then signature line. So all of that will be included whenever you hit save or run report. So I've got everything here. I've said include students full schedule and I hit run report. Now I have some that I ran earlier. They don't have the signature line or the top note on it, but this is, they come in zip files whenever you put include students full schedule. So this is an individual student report with the student's full schedule. So what I want you to see, I've done the student's full schedule and I clicked separate report by student on this one. So here's what I want you to notice. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reports for this one student. Because what it's doing, and I'll open one for you so you can see it. What it's doing is it's giving me one page for this one student. Okay, so world civilization, that's his world civilization. So you can see it's just printing that one page. If I clicked on, let's click on this one. So this is computer programming. So it's giving me his full schedule, but it's doing it in separate PDFs. Okay, so that would have been, if I would have clicked separate report by student, that's what I would have gotten, those PDFs. Okay, now if I don't have separate report by student clicked, it comes in one PDF. It still comes in a zip file because I've said include student's full schedule. So if I click on this, you'll see that I get one PDF with all of the information. Okay, so this is one PDF, individual student report, and this does not have the student's full schedule on it. This has assignments with it. Let me just go ahead and print that for you so you can see it. So I'm going to do include student's full schedule. I'm not separating the report by student, and I'm going to run the report. So up here I get my blue progress bar that it's running, and it's going to come down in the bottom of my screen. If you have an Apple or another, like I think it's Mozilla, it comes in the top of your screen, and you have to open it from there. So when I have not separated report by student, I get one PDF. But you can see here's one student, here's the other student, okay? So it comes in one PDF, and this is what your individual student report looks like. Here's my category summary. Here's my overall summary. I chose all of this when I was clicking the buttons. When I click, if you go into your settings and your display, you can choose, and I'll just go in there really quickly so you can see it. When you choose values to show in the traditional grade column, and I chose this, so you can see that in my report. So this is what the report looks like for your individual student report when you separate the report by student. Excuse me, when you don't separate the report by student. All right, let me go back into this so you can see. That's the big difference between the student's full schedule. If I don't click the student's full schedule, then I can come back to my data and I can click on assignment. I can choose to have my assignment comments. I can choose to have course grade comments. All of that can be included if I don't do the student's full schedule. So that's what you're going to see here. This is an example of a report with me choosing to have the assignment. So this would be, I have not checked include student's full schedule. So I'm able to see all of the assignments. Right here you can see the assignments, and you can see the scores, and you can see the flags. So here are the flags when I was putting scores in. This says this is collected and that's late. So you can see when I was putting the scores in, I went ahead in my score sheet and put flags in. So that shows on your report. So your parents would be able to see that. So an individual student report would be a great report for you to print for your progress report. It would be a great report for you to take into your conference with a principal about a student. If you're in middle school or high school and you have to get together with this student's other teachers, then it would be a great report to take to that. It would be an awesome report to take in a parent conference. Any other uses for the student report you will find in the slides, and that would be on slide 11. So there's some more reports just so you can see the uses for this individual student report. You see citizenship here, and that would be if that's enabled for your district, because your district would need to enable that. The grades, your district is going to be setting that up if you're doing letter grades, if you're doing, only going in and doing final grades. The choices that you would have to enter here on your score sheet in your score inspector would all come from, right here what your district sets up. So that's your first report. That is the individual student report. Are there any questions about the individual student report?
I think, Sherry, you answered most of them. I just got a question that came in. Is there a way to print multiple classes on one page, or can the classes only be printed as on separate pages?
So
Yeah,
your only choices is the student's full schedule,
right.
and it's really limited in the way that that looks. It's only going to give you the final grade for that class. If you're wanting to print like multiple of your classes, you do that here. So if you're wanting to do, if I wanted to do all of my semester ones at the same time, that's where you do that, but it's still going to print on separate pages.
Thank you, Sherry, for that clarification.
Okay. All right. Our next report, and you can follow along with Power Teacher Pro, or you can once again follow along in the slides, is going to be your multifunction assignment report. Now, your individual student report was something that you used for an individual student progress. And it's kind of self-explanatory. I'm only going to use it for this one student. My multifunction assignment report is really going to look at my assignments as a whole, my class as a whole. So we're going to look, in detail at the criteria tab, but we're not really going to worry about the student tab or the format tab, because as you can see, it's exactly the same. The only thing missing here is I don't have a signature line in my multifunction, but I do have everything else the same. So if I'm looking at my criteria tab, my multifunction assignment report, let's say it's at the end of the week and I have, we've done a lot of assignments, and I'm really concerned that I'm going to spend forever looking up who is missing what assignments for the week. But you can use your multifunction assignment report to print a quick and easy report so that you can very quickly look at who's missing what assignment. So I'm going to title it Missing Assignment. You can see I can do this for all of my classes. I'm going to click all of semester 1. So right here it tells me I have 3 classes. Now I'm going to print this report, but it's probably not going to be a lot of information because most of the classes in the testing session don't have students. Again, you can use your custom class name if you chose to create one. Students, you have less options here, but you still can sort your students. I always just prefer last name. And then again, you have that same assignment criteria. Show percentages, show assignment comments if you have comments on the assignment itself. And then very simply, your data range. So again, I'm doing Q1. Now, maybe I want to do it manually because I only want to know the missing assignments for this week. I'm not going to do that for this one, but if you wanted to just do missing assignments for this week, you would put the 24th and then click here and put the 28th. I'm not going to get anything if I do that, so I'm just going to click Q1. Here's where you get to filter out. So if you've been, putting your flags in, then here's where it works. So I'm going to click Missing Assignments. And you can see off to the side, again, it's letting me know we're filtering by missing. You can filter by your scores. You can filter by your categories. Maybe you did a big project and you need to see who turned the project in. Well, then the only thing you want to do is click project in the assignment categories and run the report. Okay, so you can see this report is really about looking at the class as a whole, all of the assignments. Okay, so I clicked Run Report. My report landed on my bar at the bottom in the left. I'm going to open it up. And you can see that I have 1 flag. Well, I have 2 flags. So it tells me my assignment, the student, and then I have my flag here that they're missing. And it's 1 is the category classwork, 1 is the category quiz. So very quickly, I don't have to go through my score sheet. I don't have to go, I have to spend a lot of time looking at a score sheet and trying to find that missing cell. I can print a missing assignment report at the end of the week and very quickly get up with these 2 students, Amanda and Alyssa, about their work that they're missing, or to reschedule this quiz that she's missing. So this report is a really great report for looking up those flags and those attributes that you've been putting in your score sheet. Very quick. So to look at other options for your multifunction assignment, you can see if you're just looking for certain grades overall for your class, this would be a great way to come in. So this helps you keep up with classwork, and this also helps students keep up with classwork. So multifunction assignment, I look at that as my whole class snapshot, and I look at my individual report as my student snapshot. Okay, are there any questions about the multifunction assignment report?
Sherry, so far we do not have any questions about that report, but you guys, if you need to send me or Jill, we are moderating and monitoring these questions. Please go ahead and send those in through the questions pane and go ahead and send those on, and we will work to get those answered for you. Thank you, Sherry.
Okay, so the next report, we'll go through these two reports, and then we'll look at our progress charm, and then we'll be able to wrap it up. Your next two reports, you have your score sheet report and your student roster. So let's look at your score sheet report. Your score sheet report is like, honestly, it's like printing your score sheet from your grade. So here's my score sheet where I enter my grades. And if I want to print this, then I'm going to go to Report, Score Sheet Report. So it's going to print grades for a certain amount of time. And it's going to print all my assignments and all my grades for that certain amount of time. So if you want to keep up with, I'm going to do Q1 grades. And this is the report that you would do. If at the end of the year you have to print your grade book, this is where you want to go do that. This is your spreadsheet report that you want to print off to turn into your data manager at the end of the year. So again, you can title your report any way you want to title it, and select your classes. I like that you can select all the classes that you want. You can use your custom class name. Here's your student, your field. Now notice here in your score sheet, you only have the option of student name and student number. And then your sort options. I'm going to do last name. So if you are only wanting to look at a certain category, you have that option here. Your grades. So this is if you're sorting, you know, if you're only wanting to look at certain terms, then I would do Q1. If you need to turn in your F1 grades or final grades, then you're going to click there. You can also do a manual date range. Why would you want to do this? Well, if maybe you wanted to analyze scores that you have for a unit that you're doing, and you have a pre-test, you go through the unit, and you have a post-test, and you just want to kind of have an overview of that whole unit. So then you could do your manual and put in the dates that you specifically want and print that report. So again, you have your students and your format. Looks exactly the same. So I'm going to run the report, and it runs, you can see they run really quickly. And then here is the score sheet report. So notice I have my class up here, the assignments that have been put in, students. I've chosen in my display settings that I always want to see my grade and my percentages. You see my flags are in here. And this is all of the assignments for all of the students in my test class. So my score sheet report is going to show me all of my assignments and all of my students for a specified amount of time. To see uses for that, that is on slide 17 in your Google Slides. So this is your final grades for all reporting terms and assignments within a specific date range for all students. Are there any questions about your score sheet report? Okay.
We did have a question come in, Sherry. Can you choose both the student name and the student number?
Not for your score sheet. Your choices are always just going to be right here in criteria. And so if you don't see it in the drop down or in the criteria box, it's not going to be something you're going to be able to select for your report. So it's an either or. I think maybe it was multifunction. It was one of the others that lets you do student name and student number. It gives you the option under criteria. Let's see. No, that gives you student number. Here it is. Include student number with student name. So that report would be the individual student progress report, but your score sheet report is an either or. Okay?
All right.
All right. Our final report is the student roster. I like this report. I call this the organization report. So this report is going to print a roster of your class with blank columns. If you look at slide, because there's plenty of uses for this one. So if you look at slide 20, here are some of the uses that you can use with your student roster report. I'm going to create a field trip with mine. So you can see that you title it. So I'm going to say field trip. Again, you can select all of the classes that are going. So if all of my classes for semester 1 were going on this field trip, I can select them. You can see right here to the right, it's telling me all of the classes that I have selected. Again, I can use my custom class name if I choose. You have your option by section, by student, or by student. So if I'm by student, then I'm just alphabetical order from top to bottom. And if I'm by section, by student, then it would be 3 NC Math 3 honors tests. And those students, then it would be the next class, and then the next class or the next session, however you want to say that. Again, you have your option here of how you want the students to be shown on your report. And then your columns, adding columns. So you have a blank column, and you can add as many of those as you want and customize them. And you have some that are already generated in PowerTeacher Pro. So for the field trip, I'm going to say we're going to do gender, student number, grade level, mother's name, home phone, and I'm going to do emergency contact. Now, and I have a blank one, we're going to say paid. And let's add another blank column and do date. Now, I don't want my date column at the bottom, so you can see I can easily move it just by clicking this arrow, and it just shifts everything down one and brings that all the way up. If I don't want to use a column, I can just hit the minus where it says remove, and it's taking it away. While I'm in this report, I still have the option to just add it right back, just clicking that refresh button, and it adds it right back. So this is my field trip report. If PowerSchool has the information, it's going to be put in the report. If it does not have the information, then it's going to just generate a blank column. So I've run the report, and here is my student roster report for field trips that I created. Now you see all of this information here in these columns was in PowerSchool, so it was put on the report by PowerTeacher Pro. The contact one would be an emergency contact, and that was not in PowerSchool, or it wasn't in this PowerSchool, so it didn't print. And then these are the 2 blank columns that I created to add the date and paid. So this report can honestly be whatever you want it to be. Now, I know in PowerTeacher Gradebook, I used to generate, because when I taught, I was in PowerTeacher Gradebook. And I would generate weekly attendance, because I know a lot of teachers still do their attendance. Even if you do it in PowerTeacher, you want to have a paper attendance. And I was one of those teachers, and I would generate for substitute. And it would print the dates. And this does not do that. Now, I will say that I have had a few teachers tell me that going through this, the printer icon that we talked about at the beginning of the session, gave them that option. I can't tell you that 100% that it gave that works, because I don't have that option, and I don't have the option to use PowerSchool at work because I'm not in the classroom, so I don't get to print reports from here. But I have had teachers who print reports from here, and they say that the class attendant audit allowed them to add dates. So just check that out. It may not, but that would be something for you to check out in case you want to have that roster printed for a sub, or maybe you do, your attendance on paper. So that is your student roster report, and that brings us to the end of those 4 reports. Again, we have, and I'm just going to go back to slide 8, we have our individual student report, multifunction assignment, score sheet report, and student roster report. And I know, in Power Teacher Gradebook, there were a few more reports, but I think you can probably do most things with these 4 reports and then using that printer icon. Are there any questions about your student roster report?
So far, we do not have any questions about that report, Sherry.
Okay. So those are your 4 reports, and then your option also to do your PowerSchool printer icon. So since we have a little bit of time, let's just take a few minutes and look at our progress charm. That's just a way for you to, it's not going to be a report that you're going to print, but it's going to be a way for you to analyze progress in Power Teacher Pro, just to have some more information. So it doesn't matter if you're traditional or standard, you can go to the progress charm. This training session has traditional here. If you are standards based, it'll say standards. So it'll, if you're both, it'll have traditional and standard. So I'm going to click on progress traditional because this session is traditional. And what you're seeing here is a chart or graph of my grades for the NC Math 3 Honors. And I actually added that test. It did say NC Math 3 Honors, but I added the word test when I did a custom name in my settings. So what it's done is it's taken my grades and made a graph distributing them. So everything, this is your demarcation line, and everything above this line, your students are passing. And everything below that line, students would be failing. Again, this is a test class, so usually when I do test class, I might put 1 grade in and fill it, so everybody's pretty much passing. But you can see that it's color coding them. Starting here would be your 90s to your 100s, so A, B's, and C's. And probably D's are in here too. If you have like flags and codes that you've been entering into your gradebook, that's going to show up down here in that demarcation, under that demarcation line. If you click on any of this is talking about your missing and your late and your incomplete. This is taking me to my traditional page and my grading charm. So clicking on that takes me here, and it's just showing me who is missing, late, or incomplete on their assignment. And go back to my screen. So that is if you click over here. Notice it's telling me you have 2 people missing assignments, you have 2 people late, and you have 1 person who's incomplete. Now, if I want to have even more analyzation of my grades, I'm going to click on View All, or just really anywhere here in this chart, and it's bringing up the grade distribution. So I have all of my reporting terms here. You can click on any of your reporting terms, and you see when you click on it, it changes here. So I'm going to click on E1. Every time I click on one, it changes right here. Now, why it has 2 columns here, the reason why it has 2 columns here is it's comparing trends from one quarter to the other, and it's keeping quarter 1 unless I choose to change it. Now, the way that you change the quarters or the terms that you're comparing is to go to the little settings wheel in the top right of your grade distribution pop out and click it. And you can see you have some choices: show trends, compare it against, and I have to choose what I want to compare it against. So if I hit Q2, and remember, I don't have a lot of grades in here, so it's not really going to compare a lot of information. But if I hit Q2, it's going to put the grades that are there. And it's going to just show me a quick comparison of those grades, and if the student is trending upward or down. So that is just a little quick analyzing student progress or analyzing class progress in your progress charm. All right, let's go back to our slides. Now, this is a Power Teacher Pro Reports quiz. You do not have to do this. I can click on it, but it's not going to let me do anything because I've actually taken this quiz. But you can click on this, and it is going to give you 10 different scenarios in which you could use a Power Teacher report. And so I would suggest clicking on it, reading through them, even if you don't take the report, clicking on it and reading through it, just to see different ways that you can use these 4 reports, the different scenarios that you can use the reports in. If you want to use this report, use this slide in your school with your staff, feel free to do that. If you want to use that quiz, all they have to do is click on the link. If you want me to share the actual quiz with you so that you can do your own and have your own data, you can let me know, and I can do that as well. So that sums up your reports, your individual student report, multifunction assignment report, score sheet report, and student roster report. And without questions, we're kind of wrapping up early. If are there any more questions with report? Do you have a question about Power School in general that you want to look at? Maybe one of us can help you if you have a question about something else other than reports. If we don't have any report questions, I'll pause a moment and see if there's anybody who has anything they want to ask.
All right, you guys. So if you can go ahead and send those questions in on any reports. If you have any lingering questions, this is the time to ask.
And remember, if it's not about reports, if maybe you're questioning something else that you're doing in Power School and we've wrapped up reports and you want to ask about it, go ahead.
Sherry, could you maybe show them, and I will also put this while we're waiting on those last questions to come in. Will you show them the website with the resources?
Yes.
And I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So it is the nc-sys.org/ptp.html. And Sherry's going to pull that up right now. I will also send this information out to you guys when I send out the certificate. But Sherry just pulled up this website. This is a DPI website, and it is a page dedicated to Power Teacher Pro. And you will see on that page, as Sherry is showing you right now, there are teacher resources, and there you're going to find not only videos, you're also going to find the webinars that we have recorded in this series of the Power Teacher Pro webinars. This webinar for tonight, the report for duty, it will also be here when we post it. All the others are already posted here. And there are, like I said, there's slide decks here, there's PDFs that using Power Teacher Pro QRC, that quick reference card, that's what QRC means, is very helpful under teacher resources. And then also, if you're a data manager or a coordinator, a Power School LEA coordinator, there are also files for you guys and presentations that live here. So just really good stuff. This is also a document Sherry's showing right now. If you were used to using Power Teacher Gradebook, that was the old gradebook. That was the one with the Java launch. Versus it shows you a comparison between the new Power Teacher gradebook. So this is also very helpful and includes screenshots side by side of what what it looks like. So again, we put that website link in the chat, and this is extremely helpful for you guys that need some more resources, and also just share these out with other educators.
It is a really good site. I've watched most of the MP4s on here, and they're really quick. Some of them are just a couple minutes. I think the longest one I watched was 9 minutes, and it's just, you know, right to the point. So if you forgot what report, there's a report one in here, right there, Power Teacher Pro Report. So you click on that, and that's going to go through those reports with you. If you forgot how to do categories, right here, working with categories. So it's only going to talk about what you need to hear.
Right.
And that takes away that overwhelming, you know, amount of information. You're only going to get that one little bite that you wanted to hear about.
And there's also some videos located in Power Teacher Pro itself. Sherry's showing that right now under the help section, or excuse me, yeah, the videos right there. There's a few there as well, and those would be up to date to the version. So North Carolina is on. We are actually on 11 right now, and we are a hosted environment, so we are not on 12 yet, but there's videos in there as well. So those are very, very helpful, and also very quick mastery in minutes is what they call their videos. So those live in Power Teacher Pro as well. We do have a couple questions that came in while we were showing those resources. Let's see. I have to do progress reports, but I only want to send out ones with all classes. They want to work on progress reports that include all classes. Can I only send final grades? So your question is, can we only show final grades if we're using progress reports?
It only shows final grades if you do the student's full schedule. You can take off a lot of information just coming here. You could take, like, if you took off everything, there we go. If you took off everything but this, that's going to cut down a lot of what you're seeing. Just make sure that you're unclicking a lot of the information that you don't want. That might get it close if you're not doing the student's full schedule to the final grade. But if you click student's full schedule, it's only going to show the final grade.
Okay. Thank you. We also had another question come in. What are some features that could help with EC inclusion?
I mean, your district person or your data manager can add you as a co-teacher. I know that has to be through the data people to be added into the grade book. That way you could see the score sheet. You know, you would have that option. I would say, and this is, you know, from just speaking to another EC teacher, she said the thing that helped her the most was when the regular ed teachers or general ed teachers use their flags, because when they would print reports, if the EC student was late, and if they marked that flag, then when the report was printed, it just gave the EC teacher more information to go into a conference with. Because if you're showing, as a general ed teacher, if all you're doing is putting the grades in and the student was consistently late or incomplete or anything else, and you're not showing that, then you're not really giving a full picture. All it's looking to the EC teacher is that this student's doing really well in class. But if you're putting your flags in, then that helps your EC people. So I would say just, you know, asking if you can be added in, asking them to make sure they're putting their flags in so that you can have a well-rounded picture of this student. If they can add comments, keeping in mind that, you know, people see the comments if you click that on the report. Just making sure, you know, that that your general ed teachers are putting in as much information as they can in the score sheet so that you as an AC teacher have that much more information on your student.
All right, we had another question come in. I teach 2 subjects. Can I place the 2 grades on the same report?
If you're doing like your individual, if that's what you're looking at, your individual student report, and you're saying you teach, let's just say social studies and reading, I don't know, you said 2 subjects. So that is going to be, you would select it through here. Now, if you're an elementary school teacher, it still shows up through here. Let me see if one of these reports is, because I played around with the elementary today. This is an elementary report. Let me click off of this. So this is an elementary report. This is ELA, and that's one. But if you did the student's full schedule here, it would have ELA. This is elementary. So I have PE, I have elementary technology, I have science. So I have all of my different classes, conduct, math, science. So if I'm teaching, I'm saying I'm this elementary teacher and I'm teaching all of these courses except for PE. So that's how it prints if I click student's full schedule in my elementary grade book. So it's putting all of those separate subjects that I teach on that same report if I click student's full schedule. The schedule doesn't just necessarily have to mean that I'm moving from period to period. It's looking at it, you know, from looking at the 2 different test classes today, you know, your subjects that you're teaching and your schedule. So it's kind of both if you click that and include student's full schedule.
Thank you, Sherry. We have when you flag a assignment, no grade is entered, right? So when I average grades, the computer or PowerTeacher Pro won't average an incomplete in that grade, correct?
From what I've read, it doesn't. So that would be a no. And if you don't use a category,
right?
Because I know some people don't use all the categories, then PowerTeacher Pro compensates with the, you know, it doesn't take that out on your grades. It takes your other grades and kind of averages those percentages out using the other categories.
Okay. All right. I have a few other questions coming in, so let me read these. When you click include, okay, so when you click include students full schedule, will it populate that student's grades even from other teachers' classes or just from the homeroom teacher?
No, it's doing the whole schedule. So wherever the student goes, that's what's going to print. Let me see if this is, yes, this is a student's full schedule right here. So you see you have your final grade, and look at my class. It says Math 3 Honors Teacher Cruz. Math, this is Homeroom Gonzalez. Here we are with our next one, World Civilization Johnson. So it does every part of the student schedule. So this is a way for you to also see what grades other teachers have put in for your student. Of course, you can do that. Remember, if you go to students, quick lookup, that's going to show you the grades too. Remember, you're not going to see a whole lot here because we don't have grades for all of this. But you can see here where I've put grades in here. So you can see quick lookup students, quick lookup traditional, and you can see the grades that your students have in the other classes as well. So students' full schedule will show you grades from all classes. It's not going to show you the assignments, but it'll show you the final grade.
All right. We also had a question, and I went ahead and put this link into the chat. Someone had a great question. and asked, where can I see future webinars? And so I posted the link to our home base calendar, and that'll be the latest link in your chat. There you will find right now we have one more Power Teacher Pro webinar coming up October 2nd. And we also, on this calendar, you will find NISA's webinars or trainings, and also you will find SchoolNet. It's very important for you just to read the description to see if that applies to you. So yes, you can visit our home base calendar to sign up for future webinar offerings, and just make sure you read the description, and then you can register to attend.
Please note that this webinar series was a new series for us this month.
Yes.
We're really excited about the attendance for the series. So we may in the future have additional webinar and webinar topics around home base. As Tiffany mentioned, there will be some SchoolNet webinars that are going to be held monthly, and we are considering starting a series of Canvas webinars. So just check back on this calendar to see what pops up, and again, read the descriptions, and then the registration links will be there also.
Thank you. All right, if you'll go ahead and send in those last questions, we have about 3-ish minutes left.
Don't forget, if you didn't register, to register, and then the feedback. Give us feedback, which is slide 27.
All right. Yes, there's I do have a record of your attendance as well, so make sure you signed in digitally, and also I have a record of your attendance if you're in this webinar. And like Jill mentioned, if you'll give me up to a week, I will get those certificates out to you. And on your screen right now, Sherry is showing you on slide 27. So you will go to the bit.ly that we have provided. And when you get to slide 27, if you click on the image that says feedback, you're going to have a link that pops up right underneath, and you will click there, and then you will be able to provide feedback for this webinar. And then, yes, so to sign in, you also can go to slide 26, and I'll also repost the bit.ly so you can have access to these slides later. Or Jill, if you can do that for me.
Sure will. Also, if you were unable to sign in because you're using a mobile device, don't worry about it. If you're actually just listening to the webinar, we have your email address, and Tiffany's going to be able to get you your certificate, and she'll give you all the resources from tonight's presentation and future presentations. So don't worry about that. If you're on the webinar and you can hear us right now, Tiffany's got your email address, and she'll be sending you an email within the next week with all the follow-up details. So again, I'm going to put the presentation link in the chat for those of you that have access to it. If you don't have access right now, Tiffany will be emailing that again within the next week. We really appreciate your attendance, and thanks again. So if you don't have any further questions, we'll be signing off.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.